Welcome to another edition of the Interactive Interview. It is one of our biggest to date. In over 5 years, we've never had an opportunity to speak to him. He's with us now, the former governor of Minnesota, the one and only, the incomparable Jesse the Body Ventura. Jesse, it's an honor to speak with you today.
Well, it's great to be on, but I have to admit, I was the body 18 years ago.
How's the body holding up these days?
Oh, pretty good, like everything, you got a few aches and pains from all the years and all the body slams and all that stuff, but I'm hanging in there. I've taken up a new occupation. I live way down in Baja, California now. I live 800 miles into Mexico, and I've taken up surfing.
You've taken Jesse the Body is now a surfer.
Yeah, well, I actually started my wrestling career as surfer Jesse Ventura.
That's exactly right, yes.
So I guess you do full circle at some point.
Alrighty, well...
My greatest dream now is to ride a giant with Laird Hamilton.
Well, Jesse, you got a new book out there. It's called Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. The good folks at Skyhorse Publishing sent a preview copy to me, and I've really read through it, and I got to tell you, you've really dropped a bomb on the whole political landscape that's going on right now. And I basically wanted to ask you, how's the response been so far to the book?
It's been phenomenal. I did Larry King the other night, and at the start of the show, Larry posed the question to his viewers, should Jesse Ventura be running for president? Mm-hmm. And by the end of the show, it was unbelievable. The response was 85% yes.
85% yes.
Which was mind-boggling. I thought if I got 60, it would be pretty good. And so it clearly shows me that people are still not happy out there, And you know what I wish would be on the ballot for all of us?
What would that be?
To vote on?
What would that be?
I wish that they had on the ballot none of the above.
None of the above.
Which
I love that idea.
Well, you laugh about it, but what it truly is, and some countries have this, it's a vote stating, yes, I'm here to vote, but I'm voting a vote of no confidence. And so they should have that to where you would be able to vote none of the above. And I believe if they did that in both local, state, and maybe some federal elections, I think none of the above would win.
I think it's entirely possible with the disconnect that even both parties have.
Exactly.
With the viewpoints of people. Like, I'll be honest with you, and you might not like it, but I'm a conservative. And right now, Republicans are not representing what I believe they should be doing.
Exactly, and think of this for a moment. These two parties have now put us $9 trillion in debt.
Exactly.
That's what we owe, and that's only since Nixon took us off the gold standard in the early 70s. I can't even fathom what $9 trillion is. And by the way, what comes after a trillion?
I think it's a zillion, isn't it?
I don't know. But I'm sure they'll find a way to get there.
It seems like they're that way. And you made a great point on there when you said that it's just they both spend equally. I saw your Larry King interview. It's just a matter of where they put the expense. The Democrats put it on the taxes. The Republicans put it on the national debt.
Yep.
Brilliant statement.
That's precisely true. So, and I personally would rather see it go on taxes because then you're at least paying your bills and you're not putting it off to your kids or your grandkids.
Absolutely. Well, Jesse, being a former wrestler, releasing this book, already I've seen some people putting the comments out there, oh, he's just a wacko wrestler, yada, yada, yada. Does it still get to you at all that they don't see you as the former mayor, the former governor? They just see you as the wrestler, the body?
Well, not really, because if I wouldn't have been the wrestler, I wouldn't have, I would have had to buy huge name recognition. And when I ran for governor in Minnesota, I only raised $300,000. Mm-hmm. Which is unheard of. The Democrats and Republicans combined spending for that election was $12 million. So now you know why they dislike me so much. I won and didn't spend hardly anything to do it. And wrestling provided that. But I do take offense when I ran for governor. I was always listed with my private sector job in front of my name, which was former pro wrestler Jesse Ventura. They never called me former mayor because I was a former mayor 4 years earlier. But yet, my opponents were always given their political titles, Attorney General and Mayor of St. Paul. Now, why wasn't there equality? Why didn't they give their private sector job a former lawyer? Well, if they'd have put lawyer in front of them, I would have won even bigger, I bet.
Now, I think that there's a lot of it goes along with, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger won as a Republican in a very Democratic state. I think a lot of it is name recognition. Do you think that having that, as you just said, the name value helped you out tremendously in Minnesota?
Oh, certainly it did. And the sad part about Arnold is this. Arnold could have won as an independent.
He very well could have.
He didn't need the Republicans. The Republicans needed him. And, you know, he tried to govern as a Republican out here, and he got slaughtered. And fortunately for Arnold, he's now shifted gears because he had like 5 initiatives on the ballot. They all got overwhelmingly defeated. So Arnold was smart enough. He stepped back and said, okay, the people have spoken. We'll go a new direction.
And
now his popularity is back up again.
Absolutely.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about was back in 2000 when Bush and Gore were running, the WWE invited them to come in and have a debate on one of their TV shows with you as the moderator, but they both turned it down. Do you think they should have accepted the invitation, and what would have happened had that debate taken place?
Well, you know, to me, the more debates, the better, because you're reaching out to different sectors of the public in the United States, and we're a very diverse public, and why not have debates? I mean, Vince has pushed hard to get out and vote and all that stuff, and wrestling is extremely popular. I don't care what anybody says. And, yeah, they probably should have had it. What would the results have been? I don't know. You know, it's hard to say. First of all, let me state this so that people are clear. You remember how it went to the Supreme Court?
Yes.
Well, that violated the Constitution of the United States. Did you know that?
How do you mean?
Well, the Constitution states clearly if there's a disputed election, it goes to the Congress.
Huh.
Ooh.
And yet that was totally, you know who I learned that from?
Who'd you learn that from?
Vincent Bugliosi. He's the attorney that prosecuted Charles Manson.
Oh, boy.
Brilliant man.
Wow.
So what do you...
They also violated the Constitution. Remember Terry Schiavo?
Exactly. That was the girl that was brain dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, both the president and the Congress violated the Constitution on that, too, and nobody said a word about it. The Constitution states that you cannot pass a law for one person.
Huh.
And yet they did it. Now, did they do it by ignorance or arrogance? I tend to think it was arrogance.
Now, if you were in charge, what would you have done? Just let the ex-husband just unplug her? Or what?
Absolutely. It's not the government's business. How is that the government's business? That's a private family matter.
Exactly.
The government should have no play in it whatsoever. That's the problem. The government is far too reaching today. It reaches into our lives where it doesn't need to be.
Exactly. Now, Jesse, you are very outspoken. You've always been. I mean, that's what made the body the body.
I guess.
So, when you got an MSNBC show, I was kind of disappointed that it was on there for a few weeks, and then it seemed like they got yanked, or what happened? So what happened
was I opposed the war. And they weren't, if you think back to before the Iraq War, there was nobody on TV that was opposing it or even questioning it. That was by design. Because at MSNBC that time, remember Phil Donahue had that show?
Yeah, that didn't last too long.
Well, they pulled him, and yet he was their highest-rated show. Have you ever heard of a network pulling its highest-rated show? Never. But Donahue, likewise with me, we opposed the war. And they weren't going to allow anybody on the air who opposed the war. So I basically had my silence bought because they threw me that little bit on Saturday for a few weeks, and then they yanked it. And they paid me for the duration of my contract, which was 3 years, and my assistant got paid for 3 years, and basically we sat and did nothing, but I had to honor the contract, which stated I couldn't do any news shows, and I couldn't do anything on cable or satellite.
Now,
and so in essence, they censored me for 3 years.
Wow.
So was that frustrating, just having to sit at home and basically say nothing for all those years?
That was frustrating, but they paid me, I was paid a great deal of money, much like a professional athlete. So that part wasn't frustrating. They made me extremely wealthy. But it was frustrating over the fact that I had to honor the contract, and I had to have my mouth taped shut and handcuffs put on me, essentially.
Now, let me ask you this. Now that you have the opportunity to speak out, much like you're doing here, much like you do in the book, if you were offered something along the lines, maybe with Air America, maybe, I'm not even sure they're even functioning anymore, if you were offered something to be the independent party's version of Rush Limbaugh, would you take that opportunity?
Yes, I would.
No,
I believe that I would.
So you have no doubt in your mind that you would seize that opportunity.
Well, I probably would, although, it'd be difficult because I do spend half the year living off the grid way down in Mexico, and I won't give that up. So we'd have to find some way to do it by satellite from down there because I enjoy my life down there. I enjoy and as I said in the book, the reason I didn't seek re-election was my wife's health. Mm-hmm. She had contacted Epstein-Barr mono right when I became governor, and they couldn't diagnose it. And eventually it evolved into this chronic fatigue syndrome. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Somewhat, yes.
But it's a very devastating thing that women get. And by bringing her down to the Baja, she is now mostly cured of it. But as I state in the book, I would never put a political job in front of my wife. I will choose her first.
Well, that is
so that was the main reason I never sought re-election is because she means more to me than holding office.
That is very admirable. Now, Jesse, I got to ask you, with your viewpoints on things and the way that the book is written and the way that you really do, like I said earlier, just kind of drop a bomb on the current political landscape, would you be surprised if something you said was so controversial that Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton or John McCain actually made a reference to it during one of their campaign speeches?
I'd love it. I'd love the fact if they would do that.
Well, as a voter, I feel like that the three candidates that they've lined up for us this year are, in my opinion, unacceptable. I don't really like any of the candidates. What advice would you give to somebody like me who really is just disappointed with the selections that we have this presidential election?
Well, it's interesting because in some countries in the world, and don't laugh at this, they have the option of none of the above.
Right.
I wish they would give us that option here, so that you could go out then and you could say, look, I'm participating in this election, but this is a vote of no confidence, so I'm voting for none of the above. And wouldn't it be interesting if at all levels of politics, none of the above won a few times?
I think this year it very well could.
And I do too. And I think that would send a message to the Democratic and Republican Party that we are totally unhappy with what they've done and what they're doing.
Right.
And if I were forced to pick this year, which I'm in the same boat, I generally always vote for third party, and I'm certainly going to this year again. I'll pick a candidate out that isn't a Democrat or Republican, and that's where I'll throw my vote. But if I'm forced to pick of any of the three, I would pick Obama.
Now, you said that, I read an article recently posted, and I actually just posted a few minutes ago, that you did an interview and you mentioned that it's possible that he would be assassinated.
Oh, I think that realm, if you read my book, and I don't want to spoil the ending, but read my book, the last chapter.
Wow.
And that'll give you a real good answer where I use myself as an example.
All right.
I'll feed it to you this way. The entire book is factual until the last chapter. The last chapter of my book is fiction.
Very cool.
So I'll leave it at that. I wanted to do something a little different there, and I don't tell you that it is in the book.
Alrighty. I have two wrestling names that I have to throw at you.
Sure.
Alrighty. There's another person who's become very politically active and very outspoken. However, I think that if it put in a room, you guys would probably tear each other apart. The Ultimate Warrior. Have you heard his recent political ramblings?
No, not a bit.
Okay, he's gone very neocon, so that's basically what I wanted to...
Oh, really? Well, yeah, obviously that if he's sold out to the neocons, I wouldn't get along with him at all.
Alrighty, and the other one is somebody that the day after you were elected governor came out and said he was running for president, and I think there was some jealousy involved there. What is your honest opinion of Hulk Hogan years later?
I have no respect for Hulk Hogan because of the fact that way back at WrestleMania 2, I stood up in the dressing room and tried to unionize wrestling, and it was Hulk Hogan who ratted me to Vince McMahon.
You're convinced that it was Hogan?
I know it was because Vince admitted it under sworn deposition.
Oh, boy.
When I went to court with Vince, I told my lawyer the story about it, and I said, look, during deposition, I want to learn who it was that ratted me, who squealed on me that I was trying to unionize wrestling. And so my lawyer was very good, and Vince admitted it wholeheartedly during a sworn deposition. He also admitted it on one of the Tonight Show or one of the nighttime TV shows, because he was, I think, Larry King. Yeah, it was Larry King asked him about what I said, and Vince concurred there, even though Hogan denies it. But Hogan's always good at denying things. I just read in the National Enquirer how he had an affair with his daughter's best friend.
What is your opinion of that?
Do I have to really comment?
Not really, no. I got 2 questions left for you. And,
all right.
One of them is going to be promoting the book. The other one has to do with the Major League Baseball trials. And I wanted to ask you, do you think that's something that could very well happen in professional wrestling?
I suppose it could. It already has. Remember back in 1990, the federal government indicted McMahon and tried to put him in prison for steroid use. Mm-hmm. And this was even after he admitted that wrestling was entertainment. I want to know, why isn't Bud Selig being indicted? Mm. He's the head of baseball. And let's remember, too, everyone says they want to hear the truth. Who was the only baseball player telling the truth about steroids in baseball? Jose Canseco. And what did they do to him? They tried to destroy him, the media and everyone.
Absolutely. And the last question is, you've been everything, a Navy SEAL, you've taught at college, you've even been a bodyguard for the Rolling Stones, a professional wrestler. What is next for Jesse Ventura?
I want to ride giants with Laird Hamilton, the great surfer.
Yes.
Because I've taken up surfing now down in the Baja. And my greatest thrill right now would be to be good enough to go out with Laird Hamilton, who's my hero now, because I watched him in that. Have you seen in that film, Riding Giants?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Unbelievable. And that would be the next thing for me, I think. I hope I'm not too old to try it.
All right, and one last question. I did lie. I got to tell you. You said in 2004, wouldn't it be great to put a wrestler into the White House in 2008? Now, you've already said that you couldn't get on the ballots in a recent interview with Larry King.
Yep.
What about 2012?
Possibility, but read my book and you'll find out that Vince McMahon lacked the courage and dropped the ball. I met with him about the exact subject you're talking about, and he never, ever, I flew out there, he never called me back. He totally dissed me, and the point was, if Vince would have had the courage to do what I asked him to do in the book, I would be on the ballot right now.
Oh, man.
You know what scares me? I think Vince might run.
Well, read my book, and you'll find it very interesting.
Okay.
Mr. Ventura, always a pleasure, an absolute honor. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you have a lot to do today, so thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, guys. It was terrific talking to you, and you're a great interview. I really enjoyed it.
All right, thank you so much, Jesse.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care, Jesse.
Bye-bye.